The reason I like these large lists of ways to save, ways to spend less, is because it does two things. The first is you are able to pick and choose from that list, because you're all different, what things you want to implement, what things you want to think about, what works in your current stage of life. And the second thing it does is it is these little things that you do every day, whether it's a way to save or a behavior change, that start stacking on top of each other. You may have heard of, habit stacking, but what it is that humans are behavior based. You have to develop the discipline over time. The sustainable approach to this is one small step, one small habit at a time. And then what happens is you start to compound, as interest does in a retirement savings account. It compounds over time, and you look back at the last 30 days, 90 days, 6 months, 1 year, and you start to think, wow, I've turned into that person who saves money without even really thinking about it. So in this video, I'm going to share 30 of those, not 70, 30 of those money saving tips with you. Jot down the ones that interest you. Some of them are going to be very practical. Some of them are going to be more, think about this. Maybe this is an idea you need to stew on and think about and maybe change this behavior. Number one is for anyone who has a credit card balance. Interest rates on credit cards are not calculated monthly. They aren't calculated yearly. When you get a credit card, you get an annual interest rate. That might be 26, 27, 30% in some cases. What you need to understand is how that is calculated. They take that 30%, let's assume that's what it is, they divide that by 365 days, and they apply interest to your balance every single day. So if you have a balance on June 1st, that percentage interest rate, 30% divided by 365, is applied. And then on June 2nd, that interest rate is applied to the balance you had on June 1st, plus the interest rate it accrued. So you can imagine that even if you only have, let's say, $300 a month that you're putting towards your credit card balance, if you can break that up and make 2 payments, what will happen is you will lower the balance, and that is what is calculated daily. So if you lower the balance on the 15th by making a half payment, then that remaining 15 days accrues less interest. Number 2 is to have a leftover shelf in your fridge. How many times, let me know in the comments down below, have you found something that's really turned green and hairy at the back of your fridge? You had the best intentions of eating that casserole again last week, but somehow it got shoved to the back rear corner. It is so much more beneficial when you're making extra food to have leftovers and you've got the good intentions and you're trying not to waste food, to have a corner of your fridge reserved for those leftovers so you know where to find them. Also, you can take a little piece of masking tape or a sticky note or any little piece of paper and write what it is and the date. That is going to be beneficial. Number 3 is to find things to do that fill and fulfill your time rather than spending money. So much of our lives these days seems to be aimed towards, or the extracurricular things seem to be aimed towards spending money. I'm going to have a video coming up really soon where I share a ton of examples of things that you can do that will both fill and fulfill your time. So make sure you hit the subscribe button down below so you see that video when it comes out. Number 4 is to increase the margin in your finances. I often call this the gap. You need to have a healthy gap between your income and your expenses. So let's just use some round numbers. Let's say your income is $2,000 and your expenses are $1,500. Then that margin is $500. That margin is great for when extra things come up, things that you've forgotten about, or that $500 difference is great to use towards paying off debt, paying more towards your mortgage because you're interested in getting it paid off sooner, putting that money away so you can pay cash for your next car. So if you try to increase that margin, that's where you're going to get a great benefit. That could be one or a combination of increasing your income, having a second job. I've seen a statistic recently where a ton of people now have side hustles. And then also trying to decrease your expenses. Sometimes you've got a fixed income and the only thing you can do is try to decrease your expenses as much as possible, which I know is difficult to do right now. But if you can also increase your income, then again, you can widen that gap more. Number 5 is to organize your physical stuff. If you show me someone's house and they are completely or unorganized, there is stuff everywhere, it looks like chaos, I can pretty much guarantee, I would bet a little bit of money, that their finances are also in disarray. An organized life leads to organized finances. If you start organizing your things, you will start to discover what you already have. You will start to see bills that maybe you forgot about. You will start to want to put processes and procedures in place to get things more organized, to clear out the clutter so that you can breathe and enjoy being at your home. Number 6 follows number 5. After you've organized your home, perhaps you've found a lot of things that you don't like anymore, that you don't want, that you don't use whatsoever. If you're trying to get out of debt or save towards some emergency fund or anything other financial goals, you can sell that stuff. There are so many people looking for used things. I know for us, we are getting more into working out at home. So I'm going to be looking for some fantastic deals on weight sets, hopefully coming up on some of the sites where you can resell things. I know when I was getting out of the consumer debt hole that I was in my 20s, I sold so much stuff. If it wasn't nailed down, it was pretty much being sold. If I didn't have to wear it, it was pretty much being sold if I could get any money from it. Now, there might be a lot of things you can't get money from. It's just better to donate them. So don't keep them just because you can't sell them. But if you are organizing, that you find things that you think, I can let go of this. I don't use this anymore and I might be able to get a chunk of change from it. Go ahead and see if you can sell it. Number 7 is to stop upgrading your phone if you can. If it's completely dead and you have to get a new phone, I never ever recommend getting the latest model. I mean, really, there's not a ton of difference unless you haven't gotten a new phone in about 10 years. I bet the camera of a 10-year-old phone and a new phone is going to be a much sharper quality. But honestly, they come out with a new one every single year, and there are some people who buy a new one every single year. I want to show you a graph I found that says the average price of smartphones in the United States from 2013 to 2017. If you look back at 2013, it was $507. And then it went down a bit, which you usually expect to do. I mean, TVs used to be astronomical in cost, and then they went down. But smartphones don't seem to be having that same trajectory. You get up to 2024, the average is $940, and this projects that the average by 2027 is going to be $1,430. Number 8 is to get multiple quotes when you've got either car maintenance, home repairs, maybe upgrades that you're making to your home. Now, this doesn't mean that you go with the lowest price. Do your research. For instance, time is money. So if someone is slightly more expensive, but they can turn around the item in a shorter amount of time, that could be a better deal. So let's just say you've got 2 mechanics. There's major repairs to your car. One says it's going to be 3 weeks. He's about $500 less. One says he can get it done in about a week. Again, just about $500 more, but you have to have a rental car. That's the only way for you to get back and forth, and you're going to save $700 if you end up going with the one that's a little bit more expensive but gets it done quicker. Again, we're just using round numbers. You can see here where the time is worth getting it done for a little bit larger of a price. Number 9 is to stop stress shopping. I remember doing this. You get stressed out. You don't want to focus on whatever project it is you have to do, and maybe you open up Amazon or you open up some other shopping app and you're starting to look around. This can really get you in trouble when you have very little motivation. So there are a couple things you can do to put in place to stop stress shopping. First of all, keep yourself out of the mall. Keep yourself out of window shopping if that's what you do. Instead, try to find something that reduces your stress. You could also get down to the bottom of what's causing your stress, and you could also remove the temptations. For instance, if you have a ton of apps on your phone, such as the Amazon app, maybe you remove it until you've gotten over this issue of stress shopping. Number 10 is to plan your week. This is beneficial because you're going to see what the week ahead looks like. It releases a lot of the stress of not knowing. You have an idea of what's going on. Maybe you've decided what you're going to be eating that week. That's part of your process of planning for the week. Maybe you see that there are 2 places you need to go, and you had originally thought you'd go there on Monday and Friday, but they're in the same area, so you're going to just batch your errand and go on Monday. So you can see how planning your week can help you save money. It can also prepare you for maybe one of those nights where it's going to be late when you're both getting home. Maybe that means then we need to meal prep for Wednesday night on Tuesday. Number 11 is to stick to your favorites. When I find a brand or a particular style that I really like, I stick with it. For instance, a brand of shoes that I like or a pair of pants that fits really well. What I will do is bookmark that item and then I will wait for it to go on sale. Usually things like that go on sale mid-season or end of season. Let's say it's a pair of winter slacks, winter pants. Then you're going to maybe look later on in the season or at the end of season and you're going to get the best deals. And at that point, what I will do, if I need to, I will pick up duplicates because I love it so much. I know it's going to wear out at some point. I'm going to have a replacement, or I might pick up another color. Number 12, if you find that you are over-consuming or you're overspending, you're doing just a ton of useless spending, you go through your Amazon cart and you're like, what in the world did I buy all of that stuff for? Then what I really recommend is auditing your social media to see if you're following or watching somebody who is an over-consumer. Is there somebody you're watching that really does a ton of sponsorships where people get paid? So for somebody like me on YouTube, so a brand says, hey, will you do this sponsorship? You'll talk positively about the thing that they're going to show you or that you're going to give an advertisement about, and they will give them money for that. Or it's somebody who does a ton of hauls and they link all of the wonderful things down below. Those things could make you not realize that they're causing you to overspend, but they are. So just now that you know about it, do a quick audit of your social media and see if you need to remove any of those people from being followed because they're causing that overconsuming. Number 13 is to rediscover and enjoy what you already have. Sometimes it's just changing your mindset about something that you have that you've lost interest in. Looking at it at a different angle and going, you know what, I actually do appreciate this thing. It gives you a new picture of that item. Sometimes it's about making just small changes, such as moving furniture or just doing something small with your furniture or with the item to make it seem different. I actually had a viewer put a comment that I wanted to read that really applied to this. This tip was from Tressa Lewis, and Tressa says, I love listening to your videos each week. Tressa, thank you. I appreciate you commenting on my videos and watching them as well. Tressa says, one thing I thought of as I'm sitting on my nice deck listening to the birds. That sounds wonderful. We invested in some couch covers. They are awesome. They snug tight to the couch and they have enabled us to save money by not wanting to buy a new couch. I wonder if it might be a useful idea to give money spending ideas that will save us money. I think that is a great idea. So I might actually put together a list of ways you can spend money that also save you money. If you would like that, let me know down in the comments below. Number 14 is to ignore trends. You know, trends several decades ago used to be usually seasonal trends. That's about how often a trend would change at the most. Now the fashion industry has trends changing 52 weeks a year. Why? Because then you purchase more things. I've recently been seeing people wearing these wide leg, tight-fitting, low-rise jeans, and if you know, you know. I'm 40 and I was in high school in the late 90s. You know, we did that trend. I'm not doing that trend again. That doesn't really work with my body type. So if you can, ignore trends, buy classic pieces, things that typically don't go out of style for a long time. You're going to get more use out of them. Number 15 is to always review your statements. This is one reason I don't have any of my utility bills on autopay. Some of you might, that's great. Some of you might be able to get sent the bill before it comes out of your bank account. For in our case, we don't. We want that bill to come in, we review that bill, we make sure there isn't a leak, anything crazy that's happened before we pay it. So there are some bills, especially bills that aren't fixed, that we most certainly do not have on auto pay because you never know, rates went up, they didn't tell you about it, maybe that's internet or your cell phone, and you're thinking, wait a minute, that's not what I signed up for. So always review your statements, even your credit card statements, your debit card statements, everything that comes in. Look at every line because I guarantee you, more often than not, you're going to catch at least one or two mistakes on an annual basis. Number 16 is to plan your weekly meals around your favorite grocery store's sales. So whereas a lot of people might say, go to this store and that store and that store, that starts to be a lot, especially in the hectic world we live in, and it's a lot of driving. So find your favorite grocery store and then use what you have, what's there, what is on sale regarding the meats, the veggies, the fruits. See what's on sale and use that to plan around your week, and also stock up on things that are your favorites when they do go on sale. Number 17 is to at least yearly call your cell phone and your internet provider and any others you might think of after I tell you this tip to see if there's a better deal that you can get. Do a little research first. See what first-time customers are getting as a deal. And when you call, ask for that. You don't have to have any other reason, but beware of one thing. Number one, it never hurts to ask, but beware that they will try to upsell you. They will try to get you to bundle services. They will try to get you to add this or that on. So you have to go in with the mindset that you don't want those things. If you didn't have that service before you came in, you'd never been interested in it, don't add it on at that time. So go in with the fact is, I'm going to stay with my same service. They're not going to upsell me, but I'm going to try to get a better deal. Number 18 is to stop trying to get rich quick. Stop trying to game the system. Sometimes the most reliable, practical, and yes, the most boring path is the best path. I know it really angers me when I see these comments, these bots, if you've ever heard of a bot, but basically there will be somebody who will spam the comments, somebody will add one comment on, and within like 5 seconds it will have 75 likes and 15 comments. Oh, that sounds great. How did you earn $750 a day? Should I reach out to this person? How do I reach out to that person? If I see those, I remove them immediately. But some people get bought into these get-rich-quick scams. They think that they can do all these things. They see an influencer on the internet that tells them quickly, you don't need to use any of your money. You can leverage this and be a millionaire and buy all these rental properties. I'm sorry, but the risk involved in that and the chances of that person actually doing what they're talking about are very, very slim. So if we can go back to the boring method, we're all probably going to be further than if we tried to, take that risk and do something crazy. Number 19 is one thing that I continue to see being built. Many, many more of them, and it blows my mind. It is to get rid of a storage unit. If you have a storage unit, and not in the situation where you have a life transition, a move, perhaps you have a parent that is in a short-term care facility and you're not really sure if they're going to be moving back on their own or not, that's a transition period of life. But there are plenty of people who have so much stuff in big houses that all the rooms are filled up, that the garage is filled up as well. They can't even park in it. They have to park on the street or in their driveway. And they also have huge storage units where they pay $130, $150, $200 a month to store things they aren't even sure what is still in there. It makes zero sense to me, the fact that people can't get rid of things that they will not even have in their home at that moment. Again, I'm not talking about people in transition parts of their life. I'm talking about people who just have so much stuff they just don't feel like getting rid of it. We're just going to put it in a storage unit and we're going to spend all this money on rent. We're going to have the thing, we're going to pay rent for the thing. The thing doesn't have a job, but we're going to keep it and we're going to house it. Number 20 is to have set no spend days, such as I don't spend money on Mondays and Thursdays. If you're struggling with overspending, this is a great way to put some space between your purchase and starting to overcome that consuming craving, especially if you see yourself buying something every single day. And some of you who've lived this lifestyle of saving money and frugal living might not imagine that happens, but I see it every single day with people because I do this channel. I'm very attuned in watching people's spending habits. I don't comment on them. I just see what they do, and they're spending money every single day. So sometimes putting in these no spend days, we don't spend money on Mondays, can help start that small habit that leads to that larger change in life. Number 21 is also a great way to break a habit. So what is it? Usually people have something. What is the overspending category that you have? Is it eating out? Is it clothes? Is it hobby items, etc.? You can probably go around your house if you don't know immediately, or you can ask your spouse and say, what's my overspending thing that I always buy, you see me coming in with? Then they can probably narrow it down. But ban those for an entire month. I can't do it. Cold turkey. Can't buy any more knitting supplies this month. I can't buy any more makeup. You've got to ban that habit. And what happens is when you get past that month and if you start to bring back in that purchase, whatever it is, let's say you buy a few knitting supplies here and a bit every once in a while, it's going to be considerably low of a craving because you've broken that habit. You're going to realize the overspending that was happening and that you really, gosh, look at all this makeup. I don't need all of this stuff. Number 22 is include some fun money in your budget. What? Yes, have some money that you can just spend. You don't have to be crazy strict, because what happens is you will get burnt out. Now, I do not recommend doing this if you don't have a budget and you don't track your expenses. I don't recommend this either if you're going through one of the challenges that I mentioned in the previous 2 tips. But what you will find is that if you have just a little bit, let's say you restaurants is your thing, and you have a budget of, let's say, $40, and you can go out and you can have, one little trip a month. That is going to be enough usually to satiate that craving during the time when you're really trying to dig in and get to those financial goals, say paying off your debt or saving for a mortgage. That time is going to go quicker because you're going to keep on it. You're not going to feel like you're completely deprived. Number 23 is to keep the receipts of your purchases until you are sure of them. How many times have you regretted a purchase? Maybe immediately, as soon as you got in the car, or maybe when you got home, you knew you shouldn't have spent that money. They don't need to know why you're returning it. If it's within their return policy, then take it back. Hold on to that receipt. Do not be embarrassed of returning the thing. Do not feel shameful about the purchase. Go and change what happened. That way you don't have any guilt about it. Number 24 is a rabbit hole I have fell into recently, and I have to say it's a really good one, and it's been extremely good for my health. And that is to cut back on ultra-processed foods. First, it's important to know what is ultra-processed foods, because honestly, their food processing is very simple. Most foods are processed. If you take an apple and you cut it up, it's now processed. If you then take that apple and you make it into applesauce, it's processed further. If you take a little bit of that applesauce and make a fruit roll-up, you have an ultra-processed food. And what the thing is about the grocery stores, over 70% of the grocery store is made up of ultra-processed foods. So staying away from them is key. Going for whole foods, which are usually around the perimeter of the grocery store. The thing about ultra-processed foods is they are very easy to over-consume because they are scientifically engineered to hit different brain circuits with with the way they taste as you eat them, with the sugars that are in there, with how they react with just the mouth feel. They are down to the smallest minute ways that they have scientifically engineered these ultra-processed foods to make you overeat them. There's one example where, let's say you take a 3 or 4 boiled potatoes and you tell somebody to try to eat that in one sitting, and then you take a bag full of potato chips that has the exact amount of boiled potatoes in it, but because they've been scientifically engineered to be highly satisfying, you could hard pressed to finish and not feel like you're way too full with those potatoes, those whole potatoes. But I bet you could finish off that bag of potato chips. So some people say it's way too expensive to be able to eat whole foods, to go around the outer edge of the grocery store. I would say to think about this. If highly ultra-processed foods are not satiating, not filling, then you're going to eat more of them. So not only are you getting way more calories than if you ate nutrient-dense whole foods. So maybe initially it's less expensive if you get, or more expensive if you get the whole foods. But because the ultra-processed foods make you want to eat more, you're going to buy way more than them. So not only the health benefits of eating more calories than you would in Whole Foods, you're buying more of them because they are not filling. Number 25 is to stop being cheap if you can. Now, I completely understand if you've got a fixed income, there's not a lot of gap or wiggle room in your budget. If you need something, you just have to buy the cheapest one. I'm not talking in this situation about those scenarios. I'm talking about perhaps you've come up from air, you've gotten out of debt, you're at a certain stage in your life, and you have the available margins to do so. If you can stop being cheap, buying the cheapest thing, because really the thing that is going to last the longest, the thing that you've researched and reviewed and you've seen the reviews of, and you know that that's the quality item. It may be a little bit more expensive. It may be more than I'm used to because I'm such a frugal person spending, but let me look at it long term and the view of it long term, how much it's going to save me because it's going to last longer. There are so many things when you get to a certain point after you've been frugal or saving for so long, and you get to a certain point and you're still buying these cheap things and noticing, well, wait a minute, why is this still not lasting? Why are these shoes still hurt my feet? Sometimes it is worth buying that quality. Now, remember, cost doesn't mean quality. Always still look into that. Sometimes people add a name brand to something. It makes the cost go up, but the quality of it is not any better. Number 26 is to let go of escapism. And I find that this is more and more of a thing, especially when the world seems to be just completely blowing up around us. At least that's what it looks like from the news. And I want to read the definition of escapism that I found on Merriam-Webster. And it says, the habitual diversion of the mind to purely imaginative activity or entertainment as an escape from reality or routine. So oftentimes we talked earlier about stress shopping. Shopping can be a way to reduce your stress, to remove yourself from reality. Sitting there and watching an entire season of a show that is worthless television, does nothing for you, is a way of escaping from what reality. And then you start looking at the people on the show and thinking, I like the way they dress. Maybe I should redo my wardrobe. I'm not feeling quite, up to myself. I'm sitting here eating some popcorn and a soda and feeling worse about myself. What happens with escapism is you're not facing reality and you're pushing off to tomorrow or for never what you need to be taken care of now. And the thing about with finances is, it being this space, I get told or asked a lot for help and how to save on money or sit down with somebody and actually put a plan together. And so often, though, they don't actually put that into action. Nothing actually changes. They are gung-ho because the idea of it sounds fun. But when you actually have to put in the work behind the idea, that's when they're like, yeah, maybe it's good. I'll just go keep living my life of escapism and doing all these things that actually don't move me forward. Number 27 is to not be too rigid when the things in life change, as they inevitably do. Realize that your goals may shift. You may have decided that you want to pay off your home early, but unfortunately, you need to replace a car first. So that paying off that home early gets pushed back quite a bit because you've got a new car purchase that has to happen. Don't be too rigid, too much of a board, because if that storm comes, it's going to be real hard to stand up. But if you're able to nice swing and sway with the changes as life gives us, it's going to be a lot more pleasant for you. I know this past week, my husband and I both had big changes kind of pop up in our work lives, and we're kind of like, okay, it's all right. It's a change, but I trust in God's path. I trust in the way things are going, and I'm going to go with the flow and see what opens up. Number 28 is to think of being a lifelong student. And I don't mean in the way of staying in college and racking up student loans for a decade. I mean in thinking about topics that we aren't taught without large corporations' input. Things that we have to go out and actually search and learn about so that we don't get somebody's biased opinion on it. The things that aren't taught: financial literacy, dietary literacy. When you dig into some of these rabbit holes and you start doing research into things and being a student of life and learning more, there are so many things that could improve your life. And then when you compound them on top of each other, it really just opens up a whole new glass lens, a new lens that you see the world through. Number 29 is getting back to something more practical, and it's budgeting. But here's the thing about it. If you can look at budgeting, for those of you who've done it off and on, you can't really get into it. I understand that. I went through that process myself. It's just so restrictive. You can't think of it as a punishment. You need to think of it rather as an opportunity, as a tool that helps you build the life you want. It's a plan that you're putting together. I mean, you ever put it together a plan for the vacation you're going on? We want to do this, and we want to go here, and we want to make sure we hit that restaurant that has really great reviews. Of course, we want to go visit this place. Think of it in that type of a planning. You want to go, look, I can put my money here, I can put my money there, and then this goes here, and I'm going to be fine when it comes to Christmas because we're going to have money saved up and we're not going to run into January with credit card bills again. How fantastic is that? Again, put that other lens on and look at it in a different way. Number 30, one of the biggest things you can do is to create and build an emergency fund. I'm sure you've heard that before, but do you have one? Many people don't. They don't realize life happens. Changes happen. Big things come up. Dogs get sick. Roofs have to be replaced. You need a bucket of money you can go to that you normally don't. When you need something, it's there, but otherwise you don't touch it. But it's that peace of knowing it is there. And if you have to just start out slowly building it up, it's going to help you, because if something comes up, you're going to be able to breathe lighter and think, oh, okay, there was a leak. We're going to, take it out of the emergency fund. Okay, we'll build it back up. It's a completely different way of looking at it than going, how in the world are we gonna pay for that? Oh my gosh, what are we gonna do? There's no money on the credit card, and nobody sleeps for a week. Let me know if you enjoyed this video. Click that thumbs up button. Don't forget to subscribe. I hope you have a wonderful week, and I look forward to seeing you next weekend for a new video.